Now, if you look at the skill set, that was also highlighted yesterday, how we don't just need to focus on university graduates and for the kind of jobs that they can seek for. We also need the plumbers, the welders, and all of those. Yeah. Is anything being done to diversify, maybe change or rejig the curriculum for schools to ensure that they take advantage, or even create courses that will create more for ICT and SMEs to benefit from?
There was, during the SME Summit on Wednesday, there was a lot of talk about the vocational schools and the fact that we've kind of left them out as we have looked at our whole education system. And I mean, it was clear that there was a need to have very high quality vocational schools, particularly to support that, the semi-skilled jobs, you know, not so much semi-skilled, but you know, the blue-collar jobs that we really are missing in this country. You always hear the anecdotes about how, you know, you get tilers from Benin Republic and all neighboring countries, but we just can't get good tilers in Nigeria. And so the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is really working very hard to create that layer of skills that we need, and these are skills that are very, very important. If we're talking about the building and construction industry, where we can create a tremendous number of jobs, definitely we need to create the people, not so much the engineers and the architects, but the people that are actually going to complete the buildings, the welders, the plumbers, the tilers, and all of that. So that's a very important part. Not so much related to what we do in ICTs, but there's a way in which ICTs can help. And the way in which ICTs can help is the delivery of the content of that learning. So we can have these physical vocational schools, but we can also train people with content on the internet. As long as they have a tablet, a PC, even a mobile phone, and they can have access to this content, they don't have to go to a physical school. It's a lot cheaper to deliver this content, and those are the kind of things we're looking at to ensure that we can train many more people than physical institutions can actually deliver.
Well, the question that someone asked earlier is, with all the laudable plans and goals that government's working towards, how much of this is known by the people? I mean, the leadership is having this plan. How much of this do the people know, and how much of it do they buy into, or do they have access to?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I know I've heard a lot of comments about, wow, you guys are doing so much, but we don't know about it. And that's why we come on these kind of programs, because we know that you've got a tremendous following every morning. And so the opportunity to come here and to speak about what we're doing is one that which we cherish. And we're looking at ways of doing this. So we put out stuff on the internet as often as I can, myself, the Permanent Secretary, the Director Generals of the different agencies. We're talking about what we're doing. We also, when you speak specifically about broadband, because I think, and quality of service, I think that's one area where we need to really get across what we're doing, because it looks as though we're doing nothing. So every opportunity I have to talk about the role of states in rolling out this infrastructure, I do that. Every opportunity I have to let Nigerians know that if we vandalize ICT infrastructure, we're compromising quality of service, I do that. You know, every opportunity that we have to, we have a media council that is working with us on how do we begin to propagate what we're doing, broadband awareness, and that has worked quite well. So media council, including print media, electronic media, the broadcasting, to work with us to say how do we begin to tell the narrative about what's happening and what is unfolding in the ICT sector. So that's what we're doing. Clearly we need to do a lot more, you know, but we really would rely on, you know, people like you to help us get the message across.
At the moment, Prime Minister, how are the states responding to your call for security of ICT infrastructure?
They responded very well. I think once they made the connection between security of the network and quality of service, I think that, and once they made the connection, we showed them some fairly good empirical data. And let me just make that point, that if you tax the investment at the input, so if you're giving us very high right-of-way charges that we need, you need right-of-way to lay any fiber. If those charges are very high, if you're taxing base stations and all of that, you're taxing the investment at the input. But if you allow this investment to happen and you get new businesses that are created in your state, more productivity in the state, you're able to tax the output, which is actually significantly more than the input and much more sustainable, because they're going to lay fiber only once, they're going to build a base station only once. So really, tax it there, you get the money and that's it. But if you have businesses that are sustainable, you can tax those businesses and you will get a much more sustainable income. So we've got tremendous, at least from the 6 states that I've mentioned, which we selected very carefully to be our pilot states, we've got tremendous support from the governors. For instance, I think that Calabar will probably be one of the most networked cities because they have partnered with a network operator. They're building fiber, a fiber ring in Calabar in partnership. They've waived all the right-of-way fees. And what it means that level of cooperation will ensure that Calabar will have some of the best ICT infrastructure if the other states don't follow suit. And I think that we'll get to a point where people begin to realize, the state governments begin to realize the importance of this infrastructure. Osun State is talking about Omobola, the tablet of knowledge, but these tablets of knowledge are fairly useless if they don't have connectivity to the internet. So again, the Osun State government will work very closely with us to ensure that they get that rich, ubiquitous ICT infrastructure in their state. So we're getting good responses. It's difficult because it means that we've got to work with every single state governor one by one. But we're prepared to do that if the outcome is jobs that are being created, wealth that is being created, increase in GDP. I mean, we're prepared to do that.
Permit me to take you back to area of security. I can't help it here. It's been out there, the schoolgirls that were taken out, that were kidnapped. But what I want to know, are we deploying more technology towards the Northeast, especially to assist the security operatives in their activities of securing the territorial integrity of this country?
I think, look, that's not a question that I can answer because I'm not a part of the security agencies. But I would say that yes, they're deploying technology. There are technologies that you can deploy. There's satellite technology, for instance. There's military technology, for instance. So when you say deploying technology, we've got to deploy the variety of technologies. So not just communication technology, but also military technology.
Let's look at the area of telephony. Communication technologies. The emergency numbers that many Nigerians have complained about, the fact that many of the emergency numbers that are put out there are too long to be remembered. I mean, a 3-digit number will be fantastic. Does that come under your purview?
Oh yes, it does, and we actually do have a three-digit number. We actually, the NCC had taken the responsibility of kick-starting these emergency call centers. So we have call centers in, we're piloting about 4 call centers now. The number is, oh dear, I think it's 311, but I will.
There's another 112.
Maybe it's 112,
so,
I apologize.
Yeah,
but there is a 3-digit number, and what we're doing, what is happening is that every single state is trying to secure their states, and they're trying to deploy their own 3-digit numbers, and we've been quite resistant about that, to say, look, you can't have 36 different short codes, that's what they're called, because what if you have an accident in Ondo State and you actually live in Lagos State and you don't remember the number in Ondo State? So what we need to do, what we're doing is actually having one national short code for emergencies. We have emergency centers that we have actually built. We're piloting the one in Osun State right now, where people can actually call that number and get services. It's actually a combination. It's not just the telephony service or the short code, because when you call, you've got to be able to deploy, whether it's a fire, it's a theft, whatever it is, you've got to be able to deploy the fire service, the ambulance services, the police. And so that whole ecosystem of emergency services, we need to think very carefully about that. And that is something that is not just for us in the Comtech ministry, but working with all the other emergency agencies. So we're piloting that right now in Osun State, and once that is done, we can actually begin to roll it out to the other states. Probably, it's you would say it's late in coming, but we will get there. We need to get there, because people need to know that if something happens to me, I can call a number and I can be supported in a time of crisis or emergency.
Now, how effective is your work with the telcos in piloting this? Are the telecommunication companies working with you, especially I'm looking at particularly the Northeast. There are a lot of people living around the Northeast that will need to send out messages to security operatives and all that. How's that working out?
Well, the telcos have been extremely cooperative. They actually work together with the security services. The NCC is on the Joint Security Service Committee. So they work very, very closely with us, and they've been extremely cooperative in helping us manage some of the issues in the Northeast.
In terms of access to credit, because I know the SMEs, the entrepreneurs, that's a major challenge for some of them, and a unique sector like the ICT. How are they leveraging? I mean, any progress made?
Tremendous progress. And one of the things we talked about in the SME Summit is that when you're talking about finance, people tend to think about, I need to go to a bank, I need to borrow money from a bank, and that the bank will ask me for collateral and all of that. A number of things are happening in this country, and you're right, maybe we should start talking about these things more and more. We had some number of banks supporting us during this SME Summit, and one of the things they're doing is that they're making it easier for SMEs to borrow money from them. Even SMEs that don't have strong financial statements, work with them to build their financial statements. But more importantly, what we're saying is that there are actually other ways of financing your business beyond collateral-based lending that the banks will give you, and that is venture capital. Venture capital is basically you're taking a risk on the individual. So you're giving that individual money. I like your idea. I like you as an entrepreneur, and I'm going to back you with this amount of money, and I'm going to support you. So the $10 million we spoke about for this company is venture capital. and that is it's risky, but basically, you know, that is an alternative way. The entrepreneur doesn't have to put up any security, doesn't have to put up any collateral. It's the venture capital company that takes the risk. We have raised today about $12.5 million, both government seeding, a specifically focused IT innovation fund. We've seeded it with £1 billion. We've got a number of fund managers who put in additional money there. So we've raised about $12.5 million. Our target is 15. And what that money is for is to support these tech entrepreneurs. It could be $50,000 to start up take it from concept to a business plan. Another $100,000 from a business plan to a business. So that's the way that we're working with SMEs, giving them these opportunities for venture capital that is not as restraining or as difficult to get as collateral-based finance.
Let's stick with the issue of accessibility. How accessible are these funds? I mean, the conditions that they need to meet to access these funds. How about that?
The conditions they need to meet is that a venture capitalist must say it's really about your business idea. Is it innovative? Is it solving a particular need? Do I think it's going to make money, a successful business in the future? That is all that they need to. And when I look at you, do I see an entrepreneur that has integrity, that will work hard, that is committed to this particular business? Those are the kind of hurdles they need to overcome.
Yes.
Sorry?
I think the answer is yes.
So you can apply for the venture capital fund.
That's all we have to let it go today. We've been speaking with Mrs. Omobola Johnson. She's a Minister of Information and Communication Technology. You have a session today?
I do, yes. Actually,
okay.
two panels.
All right. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
And all the best.
Thank you very much. Thank
Okay.
you.